Hello, everyone. Welcome to our demo webinar. We're going to get started shortly. If you're not familiar with Livestorm, you can look down at the bottom. You'll see a couple different apps, so feel free to kind of play around and explore. You'll see a questions tab, so feel free to use that if you want to ask any questions for the speakers, as well as the chat. That's a great way to interact not only with the speakers, but the other live attendees on the call as well. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining Customer.io's demo webinar. This is our SaaS edition, so it's specifically for B2B SaaS marketers. And if you're not familiar with Customer.io, we are a customer engagement platform. We help marketing and lifecycle teams build smarter customer journeys, as well as turn every touch point from onboarding to retention into a meaningful moment. We were founded in 2012, and we have over 100,000 active users across 36 different countries. And in 2025 alone, we've sent over 100 billion messages. Now, who do we have here on the call? So I'm Amanda Brief. I'm our demand generation manager of events here at Customer.io. I'm joined by Lucy and Rami, who will be giving the live demo and answering any questions that you might have. And for today's agenda, obviously we're going through the welcome section now, but we'll have about 10 to 15 minutes of a live demo within Customer.io, and then we'll have time at the end for questions. So if you have any questions for the speakers throughout the demo, feel free to throw them in the questions tab. We'll try to get through all of them, but if not, we'll address them after the webinar is over. All right, and last slide from me. So just a couple of housekeeping items. So this webinar will be recorded. A follow-up email will be sent tomorrow afternoon, so look out for that in your inbox. And like I mentioned before, please use the Q&A panel if you have any questions for the speakers. And Livestorm is a little funky sometimes, so if you notice that the demo has frozen on your screen or the slides aren't advancing, please just refresh your browser and that should fix the issue. And then lastly, I know we mentioned this in our promo, that we are raffling off an Airbnb gift card to kick off kind of the end of summer. So we'll announce the winner for that raffle at the end of this demo. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Lucy to kick off today's webinar. Enjoy, everyone.
Thanks so much for the introduction, Amanda. It's really thank you everyone for joining today. I'm very excited to be here with you all. Before I dive into the demo and share my screen, I just wanted to kind of introduce kind of where we're coming from. So when I speak to prospects about their communications during their free trials, they speak about very similar challenges, and that really rolls around not having enough bandwidth to give each individual customer the attention they need to drive the conversions. And I feel like there's just a common misconception that in order to give a customer a thorough and personalized customer experience, you have to, have another person on the side handwriting all of these emails on an individual basis. And I think this misconception comes from the fact that a lot of technology nowadays, it's not data first. And so when you have an automated workflow, it's very basic and everyone's just receiving the same messages and it doesn't work. And so Customer.io was built to solve just this. So by leveraging both, attributes, event data, you don't need to handcraft individual messages, you can automate it. So today, Rami and I, alongside our AI agent, not going to take all the credit, AI agent did some work as well, have built a dummy trial activation journey to show you what this can look like. Right, let me share my screen. Make sure I share the right screen, that'd be important. Okay, Rami, you'll know. Am I sharing the right screen? Yes, I think so. Okay, so before I dive in, firstly, I want to introduce Sprintman, which is our fake AI project management tool that helps software teams. So in this mystery magical world, they have generously given their customers a 14-day free trial, just really so that they can try before they buy. But the real issue is, whilst they're having a lot of people sign up, adoption is really dropping off after only a couple days, and so people aren't converting. And the reason why they're not converting is because they're not reaching the point where they can see the value in the tool. And this is really important. So they needed to figure out a way to increase adoption, guide them to the point where they can see the value, and then eventually convert. So to solve this problem, they have decided to leverage Customer I/O, giving them the ability to track and send persona-specific messaging based on what customers are actually doing or not doing within this trial period. And the first challenge that they wanted to solve was the fact that they offered multiple trials, but they didn't want to have multiple workflows or too many branches, but they wanted everyone to receive the right message or email or the right welcome email specific to the trial that they had signed up for. So the first thing they did was they applied some display rules. So if I hop into our welcome email, you can see here that this paragraph has a data rule that show if customer plans tier equals business. And the paragraph just underneath is show if customers plan tier equals free. So this is a way that isn't, it's not only tidier and easier to manage, but also it's much easier to track analytics. So it doesn't mean, if you're seeing customers fall off in certain points, you don't want to have to go and track multiple different workflows, multiple different emails, and then go in and actually fix all of them. It's all in one place. The next important thing for Sprintman is knowing that their customer has built their first project. So this is the first milestone for Sprintman. And to do this, they leveraged a wait until. So either they build the project and they go through condition met and they get put into the next checkpoint, or after a maximum wait time of 1 day, they get sent an in-app message. If the customer then still doesn't set up their first project, they will then get sent an email. It's really important, and I know that for a lot of B2B businesses, sometimes multi-channel can be quite difficult and it can be very email-centric, but if you have the ability to be multi-channel, I really, really would recommend it, because especially when you're first communicating with customers, you don't know where people will respond to. Maybe they prefer push and in-app, maybe they prefer email. And just having the diversity of different channels, it means that you're hitting the right spots and you know that you're going to capture their attention wherever they want. And that's when you can start to build up the relationship and say, okay, for this person, maybe this channel's better, and for this person, this channel's better. So using, try in-app, try email, see what works best for your customers. For the next big milestone for Sprintman, it's all about inviting a teammate. So when customers invite their teammates, they're no longer just exploring the product, but they're actually starting to bring Sprintman into a real team workflow. So you can use these wait untils to really guide your prospects through the trial, aiding in the adoption of the tool, not just for the individual, but actually for the entire business. So really increasing the chances of conversion. The third big milestone for Sprintman of this 14-day free trial is completing a task. And once the customers have gone through all 3 milestones, you're going to want to send them an email or a message to try and get them to convert. However, if you send one blanket email to all of your prospects, it's not going to really, it may not land, because all of these people have experienced a different journey. And you can use these milestones to really monitor their process, score it, and then email them based on their adoption. So for example, if someone completed 1 milestone, you know how much value they've gotten from that milestone versus if they completed all 3 milestones. So you stop treating every trial user the same. You can actually use their product engagement to understand how close someone is to experiencing that value and tailor the communication accordingly. So to do this, I've forgotten the name of the company, Sprintman use a multi-split branch where it's got tasks completed. So if they did greater than 3, they'll receive this, greater than 1, they'll receive this, and so on. But the goal of this, yes, it's about conversion. It's not just about adoption, it's about conversion. That's the big goal of this workflow. And so the final step is understanding whether they've converted or not and giving it one more go. So you wait 3 days before the trial ends, and you get to understand, okay, have they activated an account? If they have, brilliant, let's get them into an onboarding session. If they haven't, let's try again, send them another email and try and get them to convert. And this workflow is a really great example of how you can treat customers differently based on how they use the tool. But what if they have different personas and therefore different interests? Let me move on to a different workflow. Can you guys see a new workflow? I hope so. In this scenario, we are using Customer.io's custom objects feature, where you can store non-human data, which your users have a relationship with. And in this case, the custom object is the company and the relationship is the prospect's job role. So the trigger of this campaign is actually a segment. So it's anyone that goes through a specific life cycle stage is activated, but also they have a relationship with accounts that have kicked off a free trial. And to target the different roles, SprintRan has leveraged another multi-split branch to split up their prospects by their roles, which in that relationship with their business. So in this case, the role is member. This case, it's admin. And businesses can use this for a variety of different reasons. So maybe the different roles care about different things. Maybe the different roles unlock different parts of the tool. Or even in some cases, maybe you can use this to target people that are your specific ICP, which is kind of the case of what SprintRan has done here. So they know that members, whilst can be a good influence, they're not actually the people that can spread adoption of the tool in the business and really drive the conversion. So they can use this time to email a member and try and get an introduction to an admin. Whereas on this side with the admin, you know that you've got the right person here. So you can go and dive into a whole workflow of trying to get them to set up their account and share it around the team. So I've gone through a couple different workflows today. But if we take a little bit of a zoom back out of the journey, we started with a 14-day trial, but rather than like creating a generic day 1, day 5, or like your trial is ending email, SprintRan is using real customer data to decide what should happen, or what trial did they sign up for, what have they actually done in the product, have they reached the important activation milestones, who are they? Or like, what do these people care about? Like, what projects, teams, accounts are they connected to? And then what is the most important and useful thing we can say is, what can we say to this person next? So that's the real value here. It's, not more messaging, it's more relevant messaging. Giving every prospect a personalized experience without needing somebody manually sitting in the back on the other side managing every single trial, and ultimately really helping more prospects experience the value of your product within those 14 days. So giving you a much stronger opportunity to turn that trial engagement into long-term customers. So thank you so much for watching me go through those demos. Amanda, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Lucy, for walking us through that. If anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A box now. We had a couple come in, so not sure to direct this to you, Lucy, or you, Remy, but the first question is, how do you stop these journeys from becoming too complex as you add more personalization?
Yeah, I don't mind taking this one. So I think this is a really hard one because obviously in Customer.io, you get unlimited data retention. So you can really put so much data in the platform, which can almost be a bit overwhelming. It's like, well, we want to use everything, but it's going to get too complicated. And I think this is really where things like display rules, segments, and custom objects really become very useful. So instead of creating like a completely separate workflow for every persona or plan or like account type, you can keep the journeys really centralized and use the data to decide what each person sees. I don't know if Rami, you agree, or maybe you've got a different take on it?
No, you definitely hit the nail on the head there. Workflow management can get a little tricky. In an active workspace, you can have so many automations running. We do like using the AI agent just for this holistic bird eye view of your automations, how they're performing, maybe just a week over week, month over month monitoring to sort of be able to not have to review everything manually, but maybe just hone in on these automations that need a little bit of maintenance, maybe a little bit of update to help them meet their conversion goals. There is no one size fit all answer for like managing different automations and workflow. But the agent definitely helps sort of mitigate some of the manual work that goes into this.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Next question is, how do you know which behaviors should actually trigger different messaging?
This is hard because it's so like business specific. So I think what's important is to like start with the behaviors that show someone is getting closer to the value. So in terms of Sprintman's example, you know, and this is what we're hearing a lot, is the reason why things aren't converting is because people aren't like spending enough time in the platform to reach the point of value. And when you understand that really well and you understand the milestones that it takes you to get to that point, that's when you start that you use those behaviors to trigger those messaging. So the goal is to respond to meaningful product behavior rather than, you know, like automating messages for the sake of them based off of email opens or something. Like those behaviors aren't going to be what's going to push the value at the end of the day. It's getting them to those milestones and understanding, okay, these are the specific steps that we want to focus on rather than just engagement with clicks and opens. I don't know if Rami, go ahead.
I can add just a tiny bit. These things definitely differ from one business and from one goal to the other. One thing that we do see sort of happen a lot in maybe other tools or other platforms is that you end up sending all of the data that you can send to your platform, and then a lot of those data points sort of get lost, maybe not get used immediately, or just, yeah, it's another event in 1,000 events that you send to your workspace every day or every week. We definitely felt that problem, and that's why we developed our data index the way that it is today, where you are able to see all the behaviors that you're tracking, all the data points that you're tracking about your profiles, but more importantly, you're able to see the percentage of how prevalent that behavior is, how many people are performing this, how many people have that data point, and how it is being used in the platform today. So you don't have behaviors that are underutilized when they should, because everything in customer IO should be serving a purpose. So either helping you target the right person, helping you shoot off a more personalized message, and helping you sort of organize your data into either of those buckets is what the data index does for you.
Cool. Thanks, Rami. I think that is it for the questions. So the moment we've all been waiting for. So the winner of today's Airbnb raffle is Susan Zhao. So I'll reach out to you, Susan, after this after this webinar is over. But congratulations. And with that, if you have any other questions, we have like 30 seconds, so feel free to throw them in the questions tab. Otherwise, in our follow-up email, I'll send contact information for Lucy or Rami if you have any additional questions that you want to ask them. But with that, we're going to wrap up today's demo webinar. So just want to give huge shout out to Lucy and Rami for leading today's demo. And thank you everyone for joining. We hope you have a great rest of your day, everyone. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
y'all.
Bye.